back to another episode of Inside the Mind. This episode sponsored by Minor Corporate Club member Ozarks Coca-Cola Dr. Pepper Bottling Company. I want to thank them again for their longtime membership in the S&T Corporate Club and their support of minor athletics. Great conversation coming up on today's show, chatting with new women's soccer head coach Jane Grimley. But before we get into that, if you could take a moment to please be a friend, tell a friend about this show as we look to keep growing what we're doing here and telling the awesome stories of our student athletes, coaches, alumni, and more. Be sure to subscribe to the show wherever you may be watching or listening. If you've missed any previous episodes, be sure to check out the Fan Zone tab on minorathletics.com. Look for the Inside the Mind podcast. You'll find all previous episodes archived there, as well as links to all the platforms where this show is available. Before we get into our conversation with Coach Grimley today, we're going to recap the previous week in minor athletics. Starting with golf, they closed out their regular season with a sixth-place finish in a very deep competitive field at The Mule, hosted by the University of Central Missouri. Carl Milton led the way for the Miners again, finished T8 with a 54-hole score of 210. Yepa Taibo finished with a score of 214, finished inside the top 20 at T19. Gustav Lilledal also finished inside the top 50 that event as well. Baseball was on the road last weekend with 5 contests, starting last Tuesday at Missouri Southern. Big first inning. The difference in that game is Missouri S&T managed to score 7 runs but couldn't quite overcome an early deficit, falling to the Lions 16-7 in midweek action. Road trip continued Friday night in the opener of a Great Lakes Valley Conference Series against UIndy. Game 1 of that series played at Center Grove High School in Indianapolis due to some weather. Talking with head coach Todd DeGraffenry this morning, apparently they had rain, snow, sleet, and everything but hail over the course of the 9 innings Friday evening. First 7 runs of that game between the two teams all came via solo home runs. Looked like it was going to be a slugfest in the early going, but things settled down. A couple of scoreless frames over the middle third of that game, but UIndy pulled away late, went on to win the opener 12-4. Game 2, back on the campus of UIndy Saturday, a single 9-inning contest, saw the Miners leading 6-2 at one point, but again, another late rally by the Greyhounds was the difference as they took Game 2 of the series 14-8. 2 games, a couple of 7-inning contests scheduled on Sunday. Game 1 got off to an inauspicious start as well for the Miners, with UIndy scoring 5 runs in the first inning. But that was all they'd get as junior college transfer Ben Belgrave slammed the door in a superb relief outing, working 6 1/3 innings of shutout baseball, striking out 6 while scattering 5 hits as he waited for the Miner offense to get going, and boy, get going they did, rattling off 14 unanswered runs over the final 4 innings of that contest, including a titanic solo home run from Doug Wood that ended up being the go-ahead run in the ballgame. Chase Burgess went 3 for 4 RBIs in that game. Dakota Sill went 3 for 6 with 3 RBIs, while Branson went 2 for 3 with 2 RBIs and 2 runs, with Wood finishing up 4 for 5 with an RBI and 2 runs scored in that game. That momentum from Game 1 carried over into Game 2 Sunday as the Miners opened the finale with 13 unanswered runs over the first 4 innings of play. UIndy scored a couple runs late, but Missouri S&T went on to take Game 2 Sunday, split that series with a 15-7 decision. Wood kept up his hot day at the plate in Game 2, going 5 for 5 in the nightcap with a couple of doubles, another absolute moonshot of a home run, finished with 4 RBIs in that game. Tommy Reether also drove in 4, scored 3 times while going 2 for 5, while Brady Voss also went 2 for 5. Dakota Sill, Garrett Wiener, Andrew Branson, and Chase Burgess all drove in at least a run in that game that saw Nate Wadka pick up his second win of the season. 27 unanswered runs over the course of the afternoon for the Miners after being down 5-0 to start the afternoon Sunday. Softball was back at home this weekend, taking on McKendree and Missouri St. Louis in Great Lakes Valley Conference action over the weekend at the Missouri S&T softball field. Against the Bearcats, Missouri S&T fell 5-1 in the opener, but rallied in Game 2 to win 3-1 behind a complete game effort from Charlie Rowland and 3 runs over the first 2 innings. Things got going early with Hannah Anselatis hitting a leadoff home run in the first inning. Miners also scored on an RBI walk with the bases loaded from Emma Vaughn and an RBI groundout by Shannon Flowers. Sunday against the Tritons, it was a windy one, winds gusting probably close to 40 miles an hour all throughout the afternoon, wind blowing straight in from center field. Definitely created some dusty conditions and adverse conditions as well for those trying to play defense on anything hit in the air yesterday. It was a windy one all afternoon, but the Miners battled hard against Missouri St. Louis, ultimately fell in both games by scores of 12-4 and 11-0. Track and field, Missouri S&T was in action over the weekend at the Lincoln Open just up the road in Jeff City. Had 4 first-place finishes, 2 from each the men's and women's teams, along with numerous top 8 performances. Nathan Swadley captured the shot put for the 3rd consecutive weekend, while Jarrett Johnson recorded a win in the javelin. While Anne-Marie Tyson on the women's side picked up a victory in the high jump, with Sydney Stevens also taking home the top spot in the hammer throw. Tyson's mark in the high jump was also an NCAA Division II provisional qualifying mark as well, so congratulations to Anne-Marie on that. Also, plenty of other, again, top finishes in that meet. Jessica Rhodes had a throw of 132 to finish 4th, and was at the shot put in the discus, excuse me. Well, Paige Lambright finished 7th. Right, yep, 7th in that event. A couple other events on the men's side. What is this in the shot put? Again, Swadley finished in the top spot there. Tyler Marshert finished 3rd in that event, while Jacob Lubert finished 4th. Again, you can read more all about those performances all across the weekend minor athletics over at minorathletics.com. Be sure to keep up with all the latest news, stats, scores, and highlights over there. Looking ahead to this week, baseball back in action starting Tuesday. He'll be back at home against Maryville before heading north for a 4-game Easter weekend series with Wisconsin Parkside beginning Friday. Stepping out of GLVC play as the 15-team division, or 15-team league, has a couple unbalanced divisions, so this is Missouri S&T's bye week before they finish up a 3 straight conference series to end the season. Golf will be back in action. They'll take the course starting Friday for the GLVC Championships, running through Sunday. Softball be back on the road. Just 1 day of competition for them Saturday at Quincy, while track and field will be back at Allgood Bailey Stadium this weekend for the Dewey Allgood Invitational. Again, be sure to follow along with all the action this week at minorathletics.com. And also, if you can't watch in person, be sure to hit up the GLVC Sports Network for live streaming coverage of all those events where applicable. We'll step aside, take a short break, be back on the other side with our conversation with Jane Grimley on this side of Inside the Mind, presented by Ozarks Coca-Cola Dr. Pepper Bottling Company. This episode of Inside the Mind, presented by corporate club member Ozarks Coca-Cola Dr. Pepper Bottling Company. I want to thank them for their membership in the S&T Corporate Club and their support of minor athletics. Joining us on the show today, she was named the head women's soccer coach here at Missouri S&T in late February after spending the previous 4 seasons on the staff at Goldie Beacom College in Wilmington, Delaware. Finished her time with the Lightning as the associate head coach, and during her time at GBC, they won at least 10 games each season and won 15 games in 2018 as they reached the semifinals of the CACC tournament. Under her tutelage, the Lightning saw Jenna Fannin be named CACC Player of the Year and lead the NCAA in scoring in 2019. She was a recipient of the United Soccer Coaches 30 Under 30 Award in 2019 and also spent time as a club coach with Sporting Delaware, also spent time with the Olympic Development Program and the Philadelphia Union's youth program. A 4-year letter winner at Goldie Beacom, she scored 10 times in 65 career games with 3 game winners. Please welcome to the show, Jane Grimley. Jane, thanks for stopping by, taking time later today. I know, it's about second week in town, and there's a lot going on. I know you were busy last week. First spring game, first week in town. Already had some recruits and everything on campus, but how are you doing?
Great. I am just trying to absorb it all, to be honest. It's a lot, but it's been a very exciting start for sure.
Oh, I'm sure it's moving. I know how the whole moving halfway across the country for work thing goes. Hopefully I'm done with that for the foreseeable future. playing ping pong between Missouri and Florida for the last couple of years was kind of an adventure. But yeah, no. What do you think of Raleigh so far? You kind of starting to figure out where things are. I know you're kind of hanging out in St. James a little bit too.
Yep. So yeah, St. James has actually been really nice. Like it a lot. Been in Raleigh obviously for work, for the soccer stuff. There's enough to do here. It's not that different from New Jersey. Obviously, there's no beach. That's a big downside. But besides that, the soccer's the same. The kids are the same. It's the same kind of environment. So it's not been too hard of an adjustment yet.
Awesome. Go ahead and just kind of start talking about how you came to be the new women's soccer coach here at S&T. What was it about your position here that caught your attention? And obviously the associate head coach at Goldie Beacom. How did you decide it was time to take that next step in your career?
So the reason that this position was especially attractive, usually when you're looking at a head coach job, oftentimes it's because a head coach was forced out or had to leave and things are broken, right? There's a lot of challenges that you're encountering. This was a good situation. The team is a strong team. You're graduating a very limited number of players. They had a lot of success in the previous season, and they were almost like cheated out of kind of going even further. So there's a lot of passion. Meeting the team was great. I like the kids. I like that they're engineers. They're these little like powerful women that are going to work in a field where it's male dominated and they're facing adversity every day. I know they're going to work. I know they're not going to complain. So far, that, I guess, mix with sort of my background has been really positive. So it just felt like kind of the right place, right time. How or why did I decide now? It was a combination of things. One, just kind of being in the same place that I had graduated from. So I just kind of was comfortable there. And I feel like you grow the most out of your comfort zone. So it was time for me to take that next step somewhere different, maybe in a different part of the country, different conference, that sort of thing, to really test, what I had kind of gained from Goldie Beacom and now start to put my own stamp on it.
For sure. How did you get your start in coaching? I know, talking with some other coaches that we've had on, everybody's journey is always a different one. And, some people know it's something they want to go into right away. Some people just kind of, get into it, not kind of by accident almost, and then say, hey, this is something I really enjoy doing. What did you go to school, to do, and kind of how did you get your coaching start, and kind of what's it been like in your coaching career so far?
Yeah, so I was definitely the latter of not planning to be a coach. I went to school for marketing and IT, got my master's degree in that as well, and I started in the business world thinking that, you have to work a 9-to-5 job to survive. I realized that's not the case. So basically, as soon as I graduated, my last game on the field, I ran up to the head coach. I said, I can't be done with soccer. I can't imagine this not being a part of my life. Can I join the staff at Goldie Beacom? And kind of just from there, it just continued to consume my life more and more, and just grew into more of a career that I was realizing as opposed to just a side gig. And, I liked my marketing job. I still enjoy that kind of work, but it's not my passion, and it just didn't fill that void like playing and experiencing soccer would.
For sure. No, just being able to still be able to scratch that competitive itch, so to speak. I know, with my experience here at Missouri S&T, that's kind of how I got into, getting into college athletics. I was a pitcher coming up through high school, tried to walk on here, didn't make it. Ended up, asking Coach DeGraff and Reed if I could be a manager for the baseball team, and here we are.
Right.
This is now my 9th year in college athletics after being involved with it from pretty much day one. So it's always something fun. How was your experience as a student athlete at Goldie Beacom? Obviously, a 4-year letter winner for the soccer program. Just what was that daily routine like for you, going to class, going to practice? Just kind of talk us through that.
Yeah, so I had a very diverse experience, I think, because I had 3 different head coaches over my 4 years. So each year looked a little bit different. So initially, the team was very weak. So we had 2 wins in my first season, and it was kind of a joke. The upperclassmen kind of didn't put the time and dedication into it. There wasn't a lot of good leadership. That coach got let go, a new coach got in, and that's when things really started to change in a positive way. Soccer took more priority for the team. Juggling classes and soccer was never too much of a challenge. I was a business major. it doesn't seem to be the same workload that the kids have here, which is, something different that I'm now learning to like in a way. It's just different.
Absolutely.
And then he also left, and then I got a new head coach my final year who is the coach there now. And I just developed a really good relationship with him as a player, and then just grew into being one of my colleagues and closest friends when I jumped on staff with coaching. So it was an interesting progression.
Yeah, for sure. No, going through 3 coaches in 4 years, that kind of sounds like some NFL kind of stuff right there.
It happened in my high school too. I had 3 coaches over I know, it must be me.
Holy.
Tough.
That's okay. Well,
just gotta adapt.
I don't know where to go from that, so I'm just going to go back to my notes right here. I know since you've been named the head coach, you were still back east wrapping some things up with your club team and everything else, working a lot with the team here, kind of virtually and everything else. How was that? How did the leadership, core of the team kind of help with that, kind of help manage things when you weren't here? And since you've been here, obviously it's just been the first week, but finally getting to know everybody and definitely start putting names to faces, so to speak.
Yeah, so I think when it was virtual, it wasn't as hard of an adjustment as it may have been in the past. I think everyone is kind of used to doing a lot of work online and remote now. So we had frequent Zooms with the team. The captains did take on a lot of responsibility, but I was giving them sessions and information, and honestly, they took it and they ran with it, and it was completely fine. Honestly, the communication has kind of been seamless since then. We still communicate a lot via email. I like to give them a lot of information, have a lot of resources, so it was actually a good transition in a way that it wasn't all at once. Now that we are on campus, it is definitely putting the names to faces, which I think I finally got down probably, Wednesday or Thursday of last week. So it is just getting to know everyone, getting to know everyone's strengths, weaknesses, how to fit the best 11 together and who works well together, what sort of things can we do building on what they've done in the past, what do we now need to introduce to something new. So it's a big exploration, investigation phase, but we're definitely getting, on a roll with it. It's starting to get into a rhythm.
For sure. Granted, I know you're still, fairly new to the region, but just what are you figuring out about the GLVC and just kind of the Midwest region in soccer and the level of competition as you're kind of looking at what the conference schedules are, trying to put together a non-conference slate of games for this year and for future years moving ahead?
Yeah, so I think this has been a big kind of learning moment for me in a way of the East Coast is very different. There are a million soccer clubs and a million teams in a very small sort of area. Here, it's a lot more spread, but I didn't even realize the amount of soccer in the St. Louis, Kansas City area. Like, this is the birthplace of soccer. This is where it's super dense in the ability and the number of players just in a larger, span of area as opposed to a million little clubs in different colleges kind of in one. The competition is very similar to the CACC, but I think it's slightly more competitive. The style of play might be a little bit different in ways, but it's nothing too, out of the ordinary. It's still Division II women's soccer. And I think across the country, you're still going to have some similarities. If you're going from West Coast, East Coast, even just the middle, there's going to be a lot of
just
similarities.
Geographical differences.
Yes. Yeah. And I think for out-of-conference games, that has been an interesting process now that things are changing within the conference, teams moving out. But so far, we have some exciting ones planned for the fall, very exciting. So I'm actually looking forward to getting the opportunity to play some teams outside of maybe the usual. So should be fun.
Awesome. We'll be looking forward to seeing what that schedule looks like when it finally gets put together and everything is finally assembled. Kind of talking about obviously everything that now is you're as the head coach, the scheduling, the travel, budgeting, everything else. Did you get experience doing that kind of thing at Goldie Beacom, or how much of this is kind of new now that you're you knew that the process for it, but you weren't necessarily super involved with it before?
Yeah, that's a good question. So a lot of what I was doing at Goldie was recruiting as well as fundraising, camps, those sorts of things. I had maybe some involvement in the travel and all of those details, but not as much as it is now. And I now very much appreciate what the head coach had to do, and he's probably thankful that he had 3 assistants. And now as the only head coach, I'm like, wow, there is a lot that goes on behind the scenes that you can't just be a good coach. You also have to be a good communicator, a good organizer, like detail oriented, but it all, once you get into like a process with it, isn't so difficult. So I think I'm just figuring out maybe the things that are different from where I was previously, how the process works. Is there another person I have to contact, a new piece of paperwork? But overall, I think having a business background has helped, being kind of in the corporate world, understanding how things kind of work in that way has transitioned into coaching kind of nicely that you may not have previously expected.
I know me and you have kind of talked going back and forth just kind of about social media and everything else. How big of a role do you think that can play in, helping promote a program and help, showcase the student athletes and definitely kind of, especially in the era that we are in now in college athletics, just kind of how do you think of the role that plays is?
I think it's actually like immense. It's really crazy. I think it's an expectation that players now have, like the media days and all of those sorts of things. It makes you feel like it's a very professional environment. It's something that they want to be a part of. You want your program to have a sort of like a vibe or a sort of, I don't know, when you're going to become a recruiter, you want to come to this school, what is it really like? What is the sense of community? What is the culture? And I think a lot of that is through your promotion on social and in other ways as well. Just from like my experience with recruiting, every couple emails I sent, I get a response back saying like, hey, I've seen you on TikTok, or what, like I've seen your Instagram, whatever. And it's just like kind of crazy that those sorts of things do really create a strong association with recruits and can definitely be a selling point or a way to help you get someone to commit here as opposed to somewhere where maybe they're just not as familiar or they don't know as much about it.
It's everybody always has a different take on social media. Almost all of them are overwhelmingly good, and I think like you said, it's such a big part of what our industry is now, and sometimes it plays a really significant part in whether or not a student athlete decides to go to a certain institution. I said, I know, again, you've only been here for about a week or so, but what is it about the student athletes here at Missouri S&T that makes them some of, one of the, like a really special group to be able to work with?
Yeah, so I've had a couple of recruits on campus, like you said earlier, and I think that's been kind of like what I've been wrapping up with is like, why, basically, what's the why? Like, why do you want to come here? And for me, from what I've observed so far, is that these kids are different because of the amount of challenges they are facing in their day-to-day. Like, their classes are hard. The field that they're going into is hard. They're also juggling being a student athlete and just like a normal person. If you can handle all of those things, which not everybody can, you have to be cut from like a certain cloth. Like, you have to be a certain caliber person, and that will translate onto the field. It will translate onto the classroom and then beyond. Whatever you do next, it is going to prepare you for success, or if you're not able to cut it, then you're going to realize that maybe this is a failure and now you need to grow and you need to become, more organized, more have a better work ethic, whatever it may be, but you're going to learn a lot about yourself through the challenges that you'll face here. And if you make it out, I think it's very impressive and it's definitely achievable, it's doable, but you have to be driven, you have to want it as well.
As an alum of this university, I've got 2 degrees from here. I can definitely attest to the time and everything that it requires to be, a scholar athlete here. The student athletes here definitely embody that. Just last season, Sydney Grad's COSIDA academic all-district team in the running for academic All-America honors. Just, that was also your leading goal scorer and leading pointer last fall. But again, it's just the demands academically here and what our student athletes are able to do on the field, on the court, is just a testament to the kinds of individuals that they are.
For sure.
What's one thing you're looking forward to the most about this upcoming season? I know you mentioned the non-conference slate might have some
Yes.
new names on that. I'm sure this might change a little bit as you get through the spring season, and obviously when you report back in the fall. Just one or a few things that you're looking forward to the most about this upcoming 2022 season.
Yeah, I think the biggest excitement for me is how hungry the players are. Like, they saw how much potential the team has. That same team is basically returned, and I do feel that they have this bit of like hunger or like want for revenge based on how far they made it, and they almost feel like they could have done better, like that things that were out of their control prevented them from going further. So there's a definite excitement about the next season, about things maybe being a little bit different than in the past, just from a coaching standpoint, a tactical standpoint. How can we now like basically just take that small next step and then the next step after that? I think there's a lot of like energy and excitement, and I'm just excited to see kind of what they do on the field, in the regular season. Like we're having a good test here in the spring. We're seeing a lot of what it could be, but now it's like, can they put the money where their mouth is in the fall, and can we really get the results that I think the team believes that they can get? And it's going to be tough, but I think that they can do it too.
For sure. No, talking about just how last season ended, obviously, a very successful campaign, first unbeaten season at home last year, several school records along the way, but that overtime loss on a penalty kick.
That's really tough.
In the conference semifinals on, I don't want to say it was a questionable call.
It was definitely controversial.
But depending on who you ask, if you ask a Drury player, oh yeah, but if you ask a Missouri S&T player, you probably get
if
a
I
different
was Drury,
answer.
I'd be happy too. I'd be like, yep, got it. That was well deserved. Like that's the game, right? Like it just happens that way. But it's what makes it fun too at the same time.
But definitely, using that is fuel to get back this year. And improve upon the year that was last year, make it back to the postseason, and perhaps even further if things kind of work out that way. What kind of taking a step away from the coaching side of things? What are some things that you like to do in your free time when you're not out coaching or recruiting or working with a club team or anything?
That's so tough because I do feel like most of my life is soccer. My husband's also a soccer coach, so like basically we just talk about soccer all day. We watch soccer, we go and coach. I am very active. I run like 5 days a week, or at least work out 5 or 6 days really. And back home, I like to surf. I'm a big beach girl. That's going to be a struggle here. I think I'm going to have to put that on hold, but maybe I'll take up hiking or something like that just to keep me busy.
Great place to go and try that. So.
See, I will go at some point. I'm excited to explore for sure and see the different things that I wouldn't get in the New Jersey area.
What was it like working with the club level teams and everything else? How do you think the experience there has kind of helped you, help prepare you for your new role as head coach here at Missouri S&T?
It's crazy because I think the kids that I had at the club level would far exceed the team that I had at Goldie Beacom. Like they were getting national team looks. They were Division I level players. You were basically coaching college, but the kids were like 16. So it was a really eye-opening experience in a way that like this is what the top level could look like. And my club wasn't even the strongest, but we would go to really big events where you see, like the UNCs, you see the Tampas and all of these huge schools sitting on the sidelines to recruit, and you're like, wow, this is the cream of the crop. Like this is the peak. It's definitely allowed me to create some really good connections with clubs and with players and just kind of broaden my network, which I think will help from a recruiting standpoint. And from a coaching perspective, I think that's where you get a lot of practice is coaching club because you're going year round. The results matter, but it's not like a college season where your back's to the wall. If you're kind of having a bad record year after year, you're kind of allowed to make mistakes and you're able to try different things and really, get a lot of like learning out of it and a lot of experience. So yeah, I think that was, oh God, I love those teams. They were great kids, like super enjoyable experience, and coaching club in the future is definitely something that I could see myself continuing to do, and it would help here as well.
For sure. Tell us about your time with the Olympic Development Program, just kind of what that experience was like. How much were you involved with the national teams and all that kind of stuff?
Sure. So the ODP in Delaware, I'll be honest, isn't as strong as bordering states. So Delaware's a really weird state, just in general, that soccer isn't a priority sport for females. New Jersey, Pennsylvania.
Like more like field hockey, lacrosse.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. So the ODP there was good, and you would actually get kids from different states who maybe didn't make their state's team because it was so competitive. You're able to go to different states, which is kind of weird, but it was a good experience. It was good to kind of go through the talent identification process and, selecting teams or players for the next team, for the next level. It's kind of like recruiting. You're looking for certain qualities, certain attributes, and I think that carries into, the college game as well. From the national team perspective, I did more of the ID days and that sort of thing with the Girls Academy League. So we would host a GA ID day once every year. You'd have a national team scout there, and you'd have players that were, kind of going to the camps or getting looks, and I'd be running the sessions and providing evaluations and things like that on them. We did have one player from our club who was kind of on the teetering point of getting some more national team exposure, so it was a good experience, definitely, to see like what they're looking for too, and what does that really high level look like, and can you start to pull certain things from those players and try to find them in other players that would consider S&T as an option, even though they're the players who are there are probably looking at the higher higher end Division 1, but there's still things about them that you're like, I understand what's making them so successful, so could I now find someone who's maybe not a finished product but really raw and has that same attribute.
Yeah. And I'm sure being able to work those events and work with other coaches who maybe have worked at the national level on a regular basis, or the international level, being able to just pick things up from them
Absolutely.
is always a resource to be able to have. What is one of your favorite memories? I'm not going to limit this to necessarily one, because I've thrown this question to a few people, and they they don't necessarily they have a hard time narrowing it to just one. What's your favorite memory or memories as a player and as a coach?
I think it's easier for me to recall as a coach. I feel like being a player was so long ago, even though it really wasn't. And honestly, for my playing career, it kind of always ended short. We never really made it to the playoffs. We never really made it that much farther. So it was almost always ending in heartbreak. And I only got to experience that as a coach at Goldie. But coaching wise, I had a recent one. I got this question recently, and it's a very small moment, but it was like very memorable. And it was actually at the club level, where we were playing against a rival team who had beat us 3 times previously, really bad, like 7-0, 5-0, whatever. And similarly, we were losing 3-0 at halftime. And we had chances, and it just wasn't working. And we had a good halftime talk where it was like, girls, you just got to score one. Like, you can do it. Like, you're right in it. And in that moment, I really felt like it clicked for them. Like, they realized, like, we actually can do this. They had that belief, and they won 6-3. And, like, for me, that was such an inspirational moment that, like, it finally, like, hit them. And I think that takes a while as a coach for you're constantly preaching, like, your culture, your beliefs, this, do that. You can do this. But it takes a while before that actually sets in, and the players are like, oh, I actually understand, like, what she's talking about, what she needs. And I think that was their moment. So I think that's a really nice thing to have, and I think it'll happen here at some point too, where you're like in a bad spot, things are really tough, but you're like, I'm going to find a way anyway. Like, I know we can, because we've done everything. We've been so prepared. We worked so hard. It just is going to happen.
I always like to try to end some of these episodes, if I remember to do it, with kind of a fun question. What is a fun Jane Grimley fact that?
Oh God. Oh no.
That most people wouldn't know about you.
This is tough. I think.
I gotta try to stump you at least once.
Yeah, I know, this is a tough one. I guess this is not that fun of a fact, but I really am like a huge pizza lover. Like, I'm struggling here to find good pizza, and that's been a problem in my life.
What's the go-to pizza?
Well, I just feel like pizza. So I'm kind of into this whole thing where I think pizza is like due to the water. Like, basically where you live, the temperature, the different like balances and stuff, like, can produce a better crust and stuff like that. And
so you really deep dive into pizza.
Deep into this. Like, I love pizza. So I feel like here I'm really struggling to find like that great pizza. And yeah, I don't know. That's been a really sad thing in my life recently.
Well, you got Emo's down whenever that way.
I have passed that before.
Alex's Pizza downtown.
Didn't like it.
Really?
Mm-mm.
Ah, okay.
I don't like the squares.
You don't like the squares?
It's just not right.
That's an Emo's thing too. It's squares.
Dude, I think that's the one thing. If I'm missing from home the most, is just the food, which is not that big of a deal, but it's just different.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to be, just say the last resort's like, the Papa John's.
See, no, I can't do it.
Or anything else.
I can't do it. I'm going to have to, like, order it online, frozen, and then just get it shipped here.
There's Papa Murphy's. It's take and bake stuff. That's like pre-made stuff. I mean, that might be an option. Otherwise, you could always just start making your own pizza. But again, if as a coach, I don't really know how much time you'd have.
Yeah, don't have the time. But I have been eating like microwave pizza and like the little bagel bites for like a week now. I'm just not really cooking. I don't know how to cook for one person. Just been microwaving food, Dino nuggets, just making it work.
Dino nugs and mac and cheese.
Dino nugs are much better than the normal nugs.
That's always a look right there. What's your what's kind of your favorite place you've been so far to eat in Rolla?
I've kind of been like narrowing down by things that I like. So for coffee, I'm liking Giddy Goat. I've been going there to get a nice chai tea latte. Big fan. I had good sushi the other day from, don't know, a place just really close to here. It took me
Koi?
like, might have been. It only took me like 3 or 4 minutes to drive there.
Was
So
it
that
was
was
it
good.
kind of like over by like Lee's Chicken Smoothie King over
No, I
there?
think it was like even closer than that. I actually don't even know.
Okay. Have you
Um,
been to Slice of Pie yet? I think
no, but I have heard slice of pie is very good.
that's an institution in
Okay.
Raleigh, so that's something you probably need to hit up pretty
Yes,
soon.
that's on my list. There's a few on my list, to be honest. That's definitely one of them.
For sure, for sure. Well, Jane, I appreciate you taking time, stopping by to chat with us today. This is kind of really the first interactions we've really had. Hopefully, this is this gives our audience an opportunity to get to know you and start getting excited for the season next fall. Definitely looking forward to seeing how the rest of the spring progresses, and when you guys report back in the fall, that final preparation to get things kicked off in August.
Absolutely. I'm excited too.
That's Jane Grimley, the new head women's soccer coach here at Missouri S&T, and that'll do it for this episode of Inside the Mine again, presented by the Ozarks Dr. Pepper Coca-Cola Bottling Company. Want to thank them for all their support and all they do for Missouri S&T athletics. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the show wherever you may be watching or listening, that way you don't miss any future episodes. If you have missed any previous episodes, be sure to check out the Fan Zone tab on MinerAthletics.com. All previous episodes are archived there, as are links to platforms where this show is available. Thank you all for taking time out of your day to watch or listen wherever you may be at. Your support means the world to us. We wouldn't be able to keep doing this show without you. Look forward to seeing you out to help support the Miners this weekend. Again, just a couple events at home, but as the spring season starts to wind down. But thank you all again for taking time to watch and listen. We appreciate the support as always. So cheers and go Miners.